For 800 years, the greatest alien minds of the galaxy stared at one problem. They called it the eternal puzzle. No one knew who created it. Some said it came from the gods. Others believed it was a message left by an ancient race, but everyone agreed on one thing: it could not be solved. Tarluun Empire, proud and powerful, believed in intelligence more than anything else. They were not strong in war, not fast in travel, but they were thinkers. Their scientists, scholars, and philosophers were known across the stars. They spent lifetimes working on the puzzle. Some gave their lives, others lost their minds. Yet, the answer never came. Inside the giant research ship HFY Prime, the equation filled the walls of a massive lab. Lines, numbers, symbols, even moving patterns were drawn and floating in the air. It was the most guarded place on the ship. Only the smartest were allowed to enter, and yet none of them could solve it. But one night, something strange happened. Someone was inside the lab who didn't belong there. A human named Jason Cole, wearing a janitor's uniform, mopped the floor near the glowing symbols. He wasn't a scientist, not even a technician. He was just part of the cleaning crew. No one paid him attention, because in the eyes of the Tarluun, humans were simple creatures, useful for labor, not for thought. Jason looked up at the board and squinted. "Looks like a puzzle," he muttered. He didn't understand the alien math, but he liked puzzles as a child. He loved connecting dots, patterns, and riddles. He tilted his head and noticed something odd. A loop repeated over and over, like a song stuck in a loop. To him it looked wrong, out of rhythm. He took a marker from a nearby table. No one's. "Here anyway," he whispered, laughing. Then he made a single change. Just one small symbol moved. Suddenly, the room shook. The glowing lights flashed red. A loud voice rang out across the ship. "Unauthorized contact with the eternal puzzle detected." Alarms echoed through the corridors. Tarluun scientists ran to the lab in panic. Who touched it? One shouted. They saw Jason standing there, holding the marker, frozen in fear. "What have you done?" Another screamed. The head mathematician, Grand Scholar Varel, stepped forward. She looked at the board, then looked again. Her eyes widened. Her skin turned pale. This configuration, it's correct," she whispered. The others gasped. "That's not possible. He's human. He doesn't even know what the symbols mean." "But look," Varel said. "The answer balances perfectly." Jason stepped back. "I was just messing around," he said. The room was silent. For the first time in 800 years, the eternal puzzle had been solved. Not by the Empire's top minds, not by alien wisdom, but by a janitor from Earth. Some of the scientists looked amazed. Others looked angry. How can a human do this? One muttered, "It must be a trick." Another said, "No," said Varel slowly. This was not luck. Jason was taken away under heavy guard. They put him in a small room and locked the door. He didn't understand what was happening. "Didn't mean any harm," he said again and again, but no one listened. On the bridge of the ship, a heated meeting began. "He solved it," said Varel. "We must accept that or we hide it," said another leader. "If word spreads, our pride is ruined. He must be working with a higher intelligence." Or maybe said. A young voice from the back, "Maybe humans think in ways we don't understand." Everyone turned to look at Yelari, a young alien mathematician who had always believed there was more to learning than logic. She looked nervous, but she stepped forward. "I want to speak to him," she said, "and I want to know how he saw the answer." Back in his room, Jason sat on the bed, staring at his hands. "I just saw a pattern," he whispered to himself. He had no idea that his simple action would shake the entire Tarluun Empire. He had no idea that his name would soon become famous across the stars. He had no idea that this was just the beginning. Jason Cole sat alone in a cold silver room. It didn't look like a jail, but it felt like one. No bed, no window, just smooth walls and a single light above him. He tapped his foot nervously, looking at the camera in the corner. "Come on, it was just a line," he whispered. "I just moved one line." Meanwhile, outside the room, chaos was spreading through the ship HFY Prime. The news had already reached the council ship orbiting above. A human not even a scientist, had solved the eternal puzzle. The one equation the Tarluun Empire spent 800 years trying to understand. Some said it was a glitch, others said it was a trick, but the truth was even more unbelievable. Jason didn't even know what he had solved back in the lab, grand scholar. Virel reviewed the board again. She watched the automated system replay Jason's move over and over. She had spent her life studying this equation. She'd given up family, rest, and even sleep, chasing the answer now a human janitor had solved. In 5 minutes, it shook her soul. She turned to her assistant. Where did this human come from? The assistant checked the records. Jason Cole, born on Earth. Transferred to Tarluun territory 5 years ago. No academic background? None, the assistant said. He failed math in school. Virel's hands trembled. She wasn't angry. She was scared. What if we've been thinking wrong all along? She whispered, far across the ship. Young mathematician Yalari stood in front of the secure door. I need to speak to the human, she told the guards. No entry without council permission, they replied. I have clearance from Virel, Yalari said, showing her badge. The guards stepped aside. Still unsure, Yalari walked in slowly. Jason looked up, surprised to see someone who didn't look angry. You're not here to yell at me? He asked. No, she said softly. I'm here to listen. Jason let out a nervous laugh. Well, that's new, he said. I've been locked in here like I committed a crime. To the Tarluun, Yalari said, sitting down. You? Might have, Jason frowned. All I did was fix a loop. It looked like a broken rhythm. Rhythm? Yalari asked. Explain that. Jason scratched his head. It's like in music, you know. A beat, a pattern, something that flows. But one part was off. I didn't use numbers. I just felt it was wrong. Yalari leaned forward, fascinated. You solved it by feeling? Jason shrugged, I guess. I didn't really solve anything, I just made it. Make sense? Yalari was silent for a moment. Then she smiled. You might not know this, she said. But you just described something our scientists don't use: intuition. We don't guess, we don't feel, we only calculate. Jason raised an eyebrow. That sounds boring, she laughed. To us, it's normal. Outside, the council ship sent an emergency message. A group of high-level Tarluun leaders wanted Jason removed from Axion Prime immediately. He is dangerous, one council member said. He sees through things we cannot. If one human can do this, what if more come? Keep it silent, said another. Erase the records if needed. Virel refused. We cannot erase truth, she said, standing in front of the transmission screen. This may be painful to accept, but he solved it, and we must understand. How? Inside the holding room, Yalari asked Jason a final question. If you were given another equation, would you try again? Jason looked at her, unsure. I don't know. I didn't mean to solve anything, he said. I was just bored. Then he added, but yeah, I guess I'd try, if it helps. Yalari stood up, her mind spinning. She had spent her life thinking the Tarluun were the smartest in the galaxy. But now she wondered. Maybe intelligence wasn't just logic. Maybe it was something deeper, something human. That night, a secret group of council agents landed on Axion Prime. They carried stun weapons and memory erasers. Their goal, remove Jason Cole quietly before the story could spread. But Virel was already waiting for them with guards. Of her own, this human is under my protection, she declared. You'll have to go through me first. The agents hesitated, then backed down. Virel knew the truth. This was bigger than pride. Jason had opened a door no one even knew was there, and if he could do it once, he could do it again, later. Alone in her quarters, Virel played the footage again. Jason's simple gesture, his relaxed posture, the way he tilted his head like solving a game. She whispered to herself, maybe intelligence isn't about knowing everything. Maybe it's about seeing what no one else can. The main hall of Axion Prime had never been this full. Rows of Tarluun scientists, scholars, and guards stood in silence. Their faces were tight with worry, confusion, and anger. In the center of the room, under a bright white light, stood Jason Cole, a janitor, a human, a puzzle all by himself. He looked small compared to the tall, glowing-skinned Tarluun. He didn't wear armor or robes or medals, just a plain jumpsuit and tired eyes, still. Everyone looked at him like he was something dangerous or something impossible. Virel stepped forward and raised her hand. "This tribunal will now begin," she said. "Today, we decide what Jason Cole truly is." A loud murmur filled the room. One voice called out, "He cheated." Another shouted, "He's part of a secret Earth program," one more said. "No normal human can do what he did." Jason held up his hands. "I didn't cheat," he said. "I didn't even know what I was doing. I just saw the pattern, and it felt wrong." The room fell silent again. Yalri stepped forward and spoke. "I sat with him," she said. "I asked him how he did it. He didn't use math the way we do. He used rhythm, feeling, and instinct. That's not a lie. It's how humans think." One of the elder Tarluans stood slowly. His name was Krethmar, a respected voice in their science council. He stared at Jason with narrow eyes. "In our history," he said, "we have seen two kinds of minds, those who follow logic and those who follow chaos." He pointed a finger at Jason. "This one is chaos." A wave of murmurs and nods swept through the hall. Jason looked around, feeling more and more like an animal in a cage. "Listen," he said, "I didn't come here to break anything. I'm not a spy. I'm not a genius. I mop floors. I fix small things. I eat instant noodles." He paused, then added, "But that puzzle? It was like a song with a bad note, so I fixed it." The room stayed quiet. But one young scientist in the back whispered, "That sounds beautiful." Virel tapped a crystal panel beside her, and a giant screen appeared. It showed a slow replay of Jason's hand making the correction. Over and over, the same movement played, then the equation glowed and completed itself. For the first time in history, it balanced. The system read, "Solution confirmed. This," Virel said, "is real, and it cannot be ignored." Kreth Mar shook his head. "If it is real, then we must ask another question. Is Jason Cole truly human?" Gasps filled the air. Yalari shouted, "That's unfair." But Krethmar raised a clawed hand. "We have scanned his DNA, and it is human, but the patterns in his brain." He paused. "They are strange. He shifts faster than ours. He solves without solving. He learns without structure." Jason blinked. "Are you saying I'm broken?" "No," Krethmar replied. "I'm saying you might be beyond us." At that moment, something no one expected happened. The oldest Tarluun scientist, a being named Thulvirim, floated in on a hover chair. His skin was pale silver, his eyes dim but wise. He hadn't left his chamber in decades. Everyone stood as he entered. "Let me see him," Thulvirim said softly. Jason stepped forward, unsure what to do. The old scientist looked at him closely, then smiled. "Ah," he said, "you remind me of someone long ago when I was young. I met a human artist who painted stars. He didn't know physics or math or chemistry, but his eyes saw what we could not. You are the same." Then he turned to the council. "Jason Cole is not broken." He said, "He is not a spy. He is something rare. He is a mind with no walls." The room was silent again. This time, not from fear, but from wonder. Jason looked down, not sure what to say. He had come here thinking he was the lowest person on the ship, but now they were calling him something more. Something special. Virel turned to the others. "Do you still want to erase him?" Some looked away, ashamed. Some nodded slowly in respect. Krethmar stayed silent, then walked out of the hall. He didn't like it. But even he could no longer deny. Jason Cole, had changed everything. Not with weapons, not with machines, but with a different kind of thinking. And now, the Tarluun Empire had to decide what to do next that night. Yalari brought Jason food and sat beside him. "You're not like us," she said. "But maybe that's a good thing," Jason smiled. "I still don't get what's going on. You don't have to," she said, "because the galaxy just started paying attention." The ship Axion Prime floated quietly in orbit. From outside, it looked peaceful, cold and still. But inside, the minds of the Tarluun Empire were burning with questions one human had done. The impossible. Now they wanted to understand how. Jason Cole sat in a quiet room, now not locked up, but not quite free either. He had food, warmth, and space to walk, but always 2 guards stood near the door. Watching, Jason didn't complain. He was used to being invisible now. He felt like the center of a storm. Yalari entered carrying a small device. Her eyes were excited, her voice. "Quick, Jason," she said. "We need to talk." He raised an eyebrow. "Another puzzle?" "Sorta," she said, "but this time. We think it's for you." She tapped the device, and a glowing image appeared in the air. It was a new equation different from the one before, but this one had lines and symbols that pulsed like a heartbeat. Jason stared at it, then stepped closer. Where did this come from? He asked. Yalari looked serious. It was hidden behind the original equation. Jason tilted his head. "You mean, like a second layer?" As Yalari said, "And it only revealed itself after you solved the first one," Jason scratched. His chin, "This one feels different." He walked around the glowing symbols, eyes moving slowly. "It's not just a puzzle," he whispered. "It's speaking." Yalari blinked. "Speaking?" Jason nodded, not in words, but in movement. "It's like a wave." He raised his hand and traced the air. "Following a curve in the pattern, when this goes up, that goes down," he said. "Like balance, like a dance." Yalari watched in silence. She had studied under the greatest minds of the Tarluun, but never had she seen someone solve with rhythm instead of logic, emotion instead of equations. Jason wasn't calculating, he was feeling. Jason stepped back and sighed. "I think this is more than just math," he said. "It's a map." "A map?" Yalari asked, confused. Jason pointed to a sharp angle in the design that corner repeats. He said, "Not just once, but always after this spiral shape. And this." "One," he said, pointing to a triangle. "Feels like a signal you're reading math." "Like music," Yalari whispered, amazed. Jason smiled. "Maybe that's what it is. Maybe someone made this for minds like mine, in the upper levels of the ship." Virel was watching the scan logs. She had noticed it too. The second equation wasn't just a puzzle, it was moving. It shifted slowly over time, like it was alive. But only after Jason touched it. Back in the room, Jason touched one of the shapes gently. A soft hum filled the air. Then something strange happened. The lines changed color, turning deep blue. A symbol lit up in the center. One the Tarluun had never seen before. Yalari gasped. "That symbol. It's not in our language." Jason stared at it. "Frozen. It's not alien," he said. "It's Earth's music notation. It means crescendo, to grow louder." Yalari's eyes widened. "You're saying this message isn't just for anyone, it's meant for humans?" Jason nodded slowly. "I don't think I solved it," he said. "I think I unlocked it." Virel rushed in moments later, her face pale. "We confirmed it," she said breathlessly. "This equation is reacting only to your presence. No alien here, not even me, can make it move." Jason turned to her. "Then someone made this, hoping we'd find it, but who?" Yalari asked. "And why would they hide it inside your empire's greatest equation?" Jason looked at the glowing symbol again. "Maybe it's a warning," he said. "Or maybe it's an invitation." Virel activated her communicator and whispered to her team. "Prepare the memory recorders," she said, "this moment must be saved." Jason reached toward the symbol again. And another section of the equation bloomed outward. This time, it looked like a path of stars points connected by glowing lines. It formed a shape. "Like a constellation, it's a star chart." Yalari said in awe. "A message, a song, and a map." Jason whispered, "Whoever made this didn't want to destroy," said. "They wanted to guide." Just then, the walls flickered, and a deep sound vibrated through the room. It wasn't noise. It was music. Low, ancient, and full of emotion. Jason's eyes filled with tears. Not from fear, but something else. "This isn't math," he said softly. "It's memory, Virel." And Yalari stood quietly, letting the sound pass through them, and for the first time, the Tarluun began to feel what Jason felt. Not just data, not just calculation, but something warm, human, and powerful. Jason turned to them both. We've been solving puzzles, he said, but this is a door, and I think we just opened it. The grand chamber of the Tarluun Empire was lit with cold. White light high above the planet, the floating station Sanctum Concord hovered in silence. Inside, thousands of alien minds had gathered to witness something never seen before, a trial. Not for a criminal, not for a warlord, but for a single human, a janitor, who dared to solve the unsolvable. Jason Cole stood on a raised platform surrounded by light and glass. He wore the same simple jumpsuit, but now his face was calm, not because he was fearless, but because fear had stopped making sense. He had solved an ancient equation, awakened a second one, and somehow touched a power even the aliens didn't fully understand. The high speaker's voice echoed across the chamber. Jason Cole of Earth, he began. You stand before us, accused of disrupting the scientific foundation of the Tarluun Empire. You are not trained, not certified, and not recognized by any galactic university. Yet you solved what our best could not. Jason blinked. So, I'm on trial for doing something right, the chamber murmured. Some voices sharp with anger, others full of curiosity. The speaker raised a hand. You are not being punished, he said. We are here to decide what you are. 1,000 scientists stood in tears, surrounding him like a mountain of minds. Some looked at him like a mistake, others like a miracle, but none understood him. Yalari stepped forward. Standing beside Jason as his speaker, this man is no threat, she said. He is a thinker in a different form, not bound by logic, but guided by pattern and motion. And something we have long ignored, chaos, muttered Krethmar from his seat. Jason turned to him. No, he said, creativity. Your empire calls it chaos because you can't measure it, but that doesn't mean it's wrong. Krethmar stood slowly, his long robe dragging across the floor.
Ow.
We built our power on structure, on formulas, on order, he said. If this human can solve our highest logic through feeling alone, what does that say about our entire foundation? He looked around the chamber. It says we are vulnerable. Virel, seated among the elders, finally spoke. No, she said calmly. It says we are limited, and now we are being offered a new lens to see the universe. She stood and walked toward the center. For centuries we believed in only one kind of intelligence, she said, but Jason showed us another. An intelligence that bends instead of breaks, that feels instead of calculates, that listens instead of always trying to answer. Jason stepped up, clearing his throat. Listen, he said. I didn't come here to shake your empire. I didn't even know this place existed until I got this job. I'm not a genius. He paused, looking around. I just saw something beautiful in your puzzle, he pointed at the council. You all looked at that equation like a problem. I looked at it like a song that needed one more note. The screen behind him lit up, showing the glowing pattern he had awakened, lines connecting stars, new shapes appearing slowly as if they were alive. This is what your math unlocked, Jason said. A living message, a map, and maybe a memory. The chamber went quiet. Even Krethmar said nothing. Jason's words didn't just challenge them, they humbled them. A voice called out from the crowd. What if the message is dangerous? Jason nodded. That's possible, but hiding it won't make it go away. Understanding it might protect you. The high speaker looked at Virel, then at Yellery. This is not just about Jason Cole, he said. This is about the future of our thinking. He turned to the council. Do we choose fear or curiosity? Do we silence what we don't understand, or learn from it? One by one, the council cast their votes. Crystals glowed blue for yes, red for no. At the end, a wave of blue light filled the chamber. Jason would not be erased. He would not be silenced. He would be studied and, heard Yellery smiled. You just changed an empire. Jason laughed nervously. All I wanted was a quiet job. They both looked up at the glowing star map, still unfolding on the screen. And then Jason said something that made even the oldest minds shiver. I don't think I solved your puzzle, he said. I think someone planted it, and now. They know we're listening. Virel narrowed her eyes. If that's true, she said, then something is coming. Something ancient. Above them, the screen shifted again. A new line appeared. Slowly forming into a strange shape, a symbol none of them recognized. But Jason whispered one word: door. Jason Cole sat in a wide, quiet room made of soft blue glass. This wasn't a prison or a trial room, it was a classroom. And he was the teacher. He looked out at the students sitting in silence. Dozens of tall, glowing Tarluun minds, all smarter than him in every normal way. They had studied physics, logic, deep time memory, and quantum calculation. But now they waited to learn. From a human janitor, Jason cleared his throat, feeling awkward. Okay? He said, Lesson 1, not all thinking starts with numbers sometimes. It starts with stories. He clicked a panel, and a floating image appeared in the air. It showed a little Earth girl drawing stars on a wall with crayons. She's not calculating angles, Jason said, but she's imagining new constellations. She's thinking the aliens didn't speak, but their eyes flashed, gently recording, absorbing, questioning. Yalari sat in the corner, watching proudly. She had fought hard to make this happen, a new program called Cross-Intelligence Exchange, where Tarluun scholars would study human creativity. And Jason? He was their first Chaos Mind mentor, a living example of how feelings, art, and mistakes could lead to discovery. Jason walked slowly around the room. He passed out colored shapes and asked the aliens to build anything they wanted. Some made perfect patterns, sharp and symmetrical. Others hesitated, unsure what to do without a formula. Jason pointed to a small broken tower one alien had built and smiled. That, he said, is beautiful. Because it surprised even you. One alien raised a hand. Slowly, Jason, she asked, is creativity ... What? Random. Jason shook his head. No, he said, it's freedom. It's seeing more than one path forward. And sometimes the path that feels wrong leads to something new. He pulled up another image. This time of a guitar. This, he said, is a music tool from Earth. We use it to turn feeling into sound. He strummed a few notes on the screen, soft, warm, strange sounds that filled the room like water. The aliens leaned forward, listening without blinking. Jason looked up and smiled. Math tells you what exists, he said. Music tells you how it feels to exist. Outside the teaching chamber, Virel and other council members watched in silence. He's changing how they think, one whispered. Is it dangerous? Asked another. Virel didn't answer. She only said, it's necessary. But deep within the ship, something else was watching too. The door, the hidden signal behind the second equation, had not stopped evolving every time Jason taught. Every time he created something new, it reacted not like a machine, but like a presence waking from a long sleep. That night, Jason sat alone in his quarters, staring at the star map that now floated on the wall. It had grown again, forming strange new shapes and pathways, but in the center, the symbols still pulsed gently, a soft, glowing spiral. Yalari entered and sat beside him. They want you to give a speech to the Galactic Symposium, she said, smiling. Jason groaned. I don't even like crowds, Yalari laughed. You're leading a movement and you're afraid of public speaking? He shrugged. I'm still human. She grew quiet, then asked, do you think the door's a threat? Jason didn't answer at first. Finally, he said, I don't know if it's a threat, but I don't think it was meant for the Tarluun. I think it was meant for... Yalari tilted her head. For humans? Jason nodded, the way it responds to music, mistakes, and imagination, he said. It's not built for logic. It's built to listen. Later that night, the door responded again. The symbol on the map split open, revealing a wave of golden light. Not a message in numbers, but in images, flashes of creatures, of cities in the clouds, hands reaching toward the stars. Jason sat upright, his heart pounding. This is a story. He whispered, they're telling us. Who they were? Across the ship? Alarms stayed silent. But the data streamed in rapidly. Images were flooding the ship's memory banks, millions of them. Not attacks, not warnings, but memories. Jason looked at the final image that appeared. It showed a group of beings, not Tarluun, not human, but something else, and in the center, a human-shaped figure drawn in glowing lines. Yalari, Jason whispered. I think they've seen us before. She stared at the figure and whispered, "Back, or maybe. We've seen them before." Jason Cole stood at the center of the great observation deck. Stars stretched across the black sky like paint on glass. Behind him, the alien council watched in silence. Before him, the door floated, live with color, sound, and movement. It had grown larger, brighter, and now it was humming with a rhythm that seemed almost human. Jason placed his hand near it but didn't touch. The symbols pulsed with soft golden light, forming shapes he could finally understand. They were no longer just numbers or patterns. They were memories, stories, pieces of something ancient. Trying to speak across time, Yalari stepped beside him, whispering, "It's awake." Jason nodded slowly, "And I think it's been waiting." The images inside the door changed again. First a spiral galaxy, then a burning world, then a planet that looked like Earth, but older, not quite the same. In the center of that planet stood a figure glowing in white light, tall, human-like. And reaching toward the stars, Jason took a step back, his heart racing. "Yellery," he said. "That figure. It looks like us." She stared, wide-eyed. "It can't be." But the evidence was right there. The creators of the equation, the ancient minds behind the puzzle, were connected to humanity. Maybe even ancestors of it. The chamber lights dimmed, and a voice echoed in their minds. It didn't come from speakers or translators. It came from the door itself, a soft, layered voice, ancient and kind. "We watched you rise," it said. "You were born from stars, like us, but you forgot." Jason's knees felt weak. The voice wasn't threatening, but it shook him deeply. It wasn't just speaking to the aliens, it was speaking to him, to humans. As if they had been called home, Virel and the Tarluun Council stepped forward, unsure if they were witnessing a message or a warning. "Why now?" Virel asked softly. "Why speak after so long?" The door responded, "You solved the first step. You opened the signal. Only human minds could hear the song." Jason looked up, stunned. "The equation wasn't the goal," he said. "It was a key," Yalari added, "and only your kind knew how to turn it." Another image flickered into view, a great archive a library made. Of stars and light, inside were records of hundreds of civilizations destroyed, lost, forgotten, and one file, still glowing, labeled simply, "Humanity Incomplete." Ike. Jason reached toward the door again. This time, the light touched his fingers. No pain, just warmth. The stars behind the door shifted, new coordinates appeared. Points of light on a galactic map, a path, a destination. "What is it showing?" Yellery asked. Jason whispered, "Where they want us to go." The voice returned one last time. "Come find us," it said. "Your story is not finished. But others are watching. Be careful what you awaken." Suddenly the door dimmed, the voice fell silent, and all that remained was the map hovering in the air, slowly spinning. Jason turned to the council. "You've spent centuries chasing logic," he said, "but this is something different. This is about memory, about connection. They're not testing intelligence. They're testing humanity." The room stayed quiet for a long time. Then Virel finally said, "We have ships. We can follow this path, but Krethmar." Once Jason's harshest critic stepped forward. "If we do this," he said, "we leave everything we know behind. We risk meeting something far beyond us." Jason looked him in the eye. "Or we stay here," he said, "and never know who we really are." Yalari placed her hand on the map's light. "It's not just science." She said, "It's a calling. A chance to find the pieces we lost later that night." Jason stood alone on the observation deck. The stars shimmered outside the glass. He didn't feel small anymore. He felt like he belonged to something older, greater, waiting in. The dark, a quiet voice echoed in his thoughts. His own voice, but deeper, stronger. What if Earth isn't the beginning? What if it's the return? As the engines of the great exploration ship powered up, the door vanished, closing like a soft breath. But the map remained, and the question burned in every heart aboard. Who were the first? And why did they leave the last piece? For us,